Channel 200 News.
The year in review.
Alright, for our first segment is going to talk about economics. The U.S. government borrowed money in the form of loans called bonds, which are paid in full upon maturity plus interest. These bonds can be held by banks, investors, and even foreign governments. The government has to pay interest on these bonds, just like we have to pay interest on our credit card loans.
The government took out new loans or bonds to pay for the old ones. After some time, the interest on these bonds adds up and starts to accumulate. Right now, the debt the government owes is about $14.7 trillion, also known as the GDP, or Gross Domestic Product.
The Federal Reserve began to print money in order to pay for the immense loans, but this only led to inflation, which weakened the value of the dollar. This caused commodities such as oil, gold, and food to rise in price. This inflation has caused the dollar to weaken against foreign currencies such as the euro. Foreigners take advantage of weakened American dollar to gain profit.
American industries have responded to this issue by moving American markets to other nations. This has resulted in an extreme loss of jobs and has led to more people needing government aid like food stamps, unemployment, and Medicare. Because our dollars are worth less, we are now in a state of stagflation. Many foreign leaders feel that the American state of stagflation will lead to a global economic collapse.
Now let's have a talk about the housing market. As you can see by this chart, the housing market has increased a little bit over time.
From April 2011 to April 2012, there's been a 17% increase in home ownership.
The economy is beginning to regulate and homes are becoming more affordable, but that doesn't mean the problem is fixed.
There's still much more work to be done to recover from the drastic housing crisis. Now let's discuss the stock market.
The stock market continues to plummet and panic has set in on Wall Street.
The government tries to convince the people that the economy is recovering, and there have been slight signs of economic growth, but this is a critical issue in the 2012 campaign.
As you can see in the chart, the U.S. stock market is in the negative zone, and this is causing investor distress. Now onto the political segment of our show. Today we'll be speaking with President Obama and Mitt Romney on critical campaign issues. We will be talking about issues such as healthcare, education, and their plans for the American future.
Mr. Romney, what can you do to help the unemployed without healthcare?
Actually, what both these gentlemen said is pretty much spot on. And I'll add a couple of things. One, I want to underscore something both of them said, and that is right now in America, if you have insurance, you most likely got it through your employer. And the reason is your employer gets a deduction for you when they buy the insurance for you. That means that if you change jobs, you got to get a new insurance company, most likely. And if you become unemployed, you lose your insurance. That doesn't make sense. And if an individual wants to own their own insurance, they're not part of a big group. And so as a result, they get a very high rate. What we should do is allow individuals to own their own insurance and have the same tax treatment as companies get. You do that, and people like this young woman would be able to own her insurance. The rates would be substantially lower for her buying it individually than if she had to buy it individually today. Secondly, getting people to work. This president has failed the American people. He got up there and gave a speech last night. It was like Groundhog Day all over again. He said the same things and the same results we're seeing today. People are not working. And we know what it takes to put people back to work. He said some of those things last night, lowering corporate taxes, lowering regulations, opening up all of the above in energy, cracking down on China. He just doesn't do any of those things, and if I'm president, I will do those things, and I'll get you back to work. Thank you.
President Obama, what are your intentions to improve schooling?
When a child walks into a classroom, it should be a place of high expectations and high performance. But too many schools don't meet this test. That's why instead of just pouring money into a system that's not working, we launched a competition called Race to the Top. To all 50 states, we said, if you show us the most innovative plans to improve teacher quality and student achievement, we'll show you the money. And over the next 10 years, with so many baby boomers retiring from our classrooms, we want to prepare 100,000 new teachers in the fields of science, and technology and engineering and math. In fact, every young person listening tonight who's contemplating their career choice, if you want to make a difference in the life of our nation, if you want to make a difference in the life of a child, become a teacher. Your country needs you.
Mr. Romney, what are your views on President Obama and how will you be a different president if elected?
This is an administration that I don't know what they've been thinking about. They certainly haven't been speaking to small business people and folks like these behind me who are trying to make their living in small business. If I become president of the United States, I'm going to be a pro-small business president and fight for the rights of small business people. I love the entrepreneurial spirit of America. I see it wherever I go. People want to start their own business, build their own enterprise. Some are successful in doing so, some not. But those that are employ the rest of our society and help make us better off. We need a president who understands the power of free enterprise because he's lived it, and I have, and I will, and I'll make sure that's part of our future. I wish the president would start talking about the economy and stop trying to divert with all the silliness day in and day out of he and his team. Let's focus on what people care about. And the issue people care about is the one that's affecting us, which is their pocketbooks, their gasoline prices, the cost of higher education, the need for more jobs, the need for higher incomes. We're seeing a greater and greater gap between those that have the most and those that have the least. The president's focused on taking away from those that have the least. I want to help everybody, particularly those that are being left behind. I want to help the poor. I want to help the middle class get the kinds of jobs that raise their income. Let's focus on helping the people who need the help the most.
President Obama, how do you plan to better America if you're reelected?
We should have no illusions about the work ahead of us. Reforming our schools, changing the way we use energy, reducing our deficit. None of this will be easy. All of it will take time. And it will be harder because we will argue about everything. The costs, the details, the letter of every law. And yet, as contentious and frustrating and messy as our democracy can sometimes be, I know there isn't a person here who would trade places with any other nation on earth.
And now on to our foreign policy segment.
President Barack Obama's order to withdraw 10,000 American troops from Afghanistan this year has been accomplished a little more than a week before the 2011 year-end deadline. The pullout was the first step in the United States' military plan to wind down the war, hand over security to Afghan forces, and end the combat role for international troops by the end of 2014. It also gave the Obama administration a second war-related accomplishment. As U.S. officials marked the end of the war in Iraq, the last convoy of American soldiers left Afghanistan and moved into Kuwait.
In other news, the government of Egypt has become a republic as of January 2012. In early 2011, mass protests led to President Mubarak's resignation on the 11th of February from his fifth term as president. He was replaced by the Supreme Council of Armed Forces. The people were promised an open election within 6 months, and Prime Minister Shafiq was sworn in January 2011. A 2011 constitutional referendum was passed, reforming laws surrounding the power of the election of the president, and a new constitution was drafted in Egypt.
The American government has signaled its willingness to remain deeply engaged with the generals now running Egypt, despite concerns over abuses and a still uncertain transition to democracy. The United States plans to offer Egypt $1.3 billion in military aid this year. But, besides the military assistance, the United States has budgeted $250 million for economic and political programs, including those targeted by the Egyptian courts. It has also proposed continuing military aid next year and creating a new $770 million fund to support economic development across North America. Only the military assistance is tied to the certification on basic freedoms, though all assistance to Egypt requires the State Department to certify that the country continues to honor the Camp David Accords with Israel. Egypt's military has exhausted previously authorized aid and has received no new American funds since the current fiscal year began in last October. The strength of Egypt, its stability, is important to the region and to the world, the House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi said during a visit to Cairo with a delegation of lawmakers, and we want to be helpful in that regard.
And now time for our commentary portion of the show. You're on with Nicolette and Allie.
I would like to discuss the topic of Coney 2012.
What an excellent topic!
Coney 2012 is a short film created by Invisible Children Incorporated and released on March 5, 2012. The film's purpose is to promote the charity Stop Coney movement in order to make Ugandan indicated war criminal and international criminal court fugitive Joseph Kony a globally known figure in order to have him arrested by December 2012 when the campaign expires. The film spread virally as of March 30, 2012, and the film has over 86 million views on YouTube and over the internet. The intense exposure of the video caused the Coney 2012 website to crash shortly after it began, gaining widespread popularity. A poll suggested that more than half of young adult Americans heard about Coney 2012 in the days following the video's release. Thus far, the campaign has resulted in a resolution by the United States Senate and contributed to the decision to send troops by the African Union. The film also called for an April 20th worldwide canvassing campaign called Cover the Night, in which they will paste photos of Coney's face throughout the world. On April 5th, 2012, Invisible Children released a follow-up video titled Coney 2012 Part 2.
Invisible Children Incorporated is headquartered in San Diego and employs 43 full-time workers who work alongside hundreds of volunteers to spearhead our awareness and advocacy work internationally. Invisible Children first began its work in Uganda in 2005. Based in Gulu, Invisible Children Uganda began working alongside local visionaries who identified the areas of greatest need in northern Uganda at the time. Relying on this local leadership and expertise, Invisible Children Uganda worked to develop programs on the ground. Invisible Children was founded most notably by Jason Russell. He and his two friends journeyed to Uganda and were so moved by the atrocities they saw that they decided to make it their life's work to end the reign of Joseph Kony.
And now for an interview with Jason Russell.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have
Thank you
you
so
on,
much.
Jason. Can you tell us when you did this film?
Yeah, we did this film. We finished it like 4 days ago. So we just finished it up recently. And we thought of the idea this December. We thought, what if we could make just a short, condensed version of the past 9 years of this journey and try to get it to go viral, try to get it to people. You know, the goal was 500,000 views for the year. That's what we wanted. And as you know, it's been over 10 million in 2 days. So people are waking up to their power and their potential, and we are so excited that Australia is joining the world in this beautiful story.
It is appealing to so many people. It has gone in such a populist way in the last 24 hours and 48 hours in Australia. What do you think it is about this story that makes people want to spread it, makes people want to do something about this bloke?
Well, we're all innately born as human beings wanting to belong to something larger than ourselves. That's why we go see movies. We go see Harry Potter, go on the journey. You know, we are obsessed with this idea that there's a bad guy or a bad person in the world and we can stop them. Like Invisible Children, what we do is say you can stop them. And the reason why I'm on the show is because of Portia and Ruby and Taylor. These young girls in high school started sharing it, and they're saying this is important. This is what we want. And the world that we live in now, we're waking up to that potential. We've talked about social networking. We've talked about the power of the millennial generation. Well, this is it. You are now seeing it. This is what we want. And we're trending more on Twitter than the new iPad. And I love Apple. I'm obsessed with Steve Jobs. But here's the thing. This is what we want. These are children being forced to cut people's faces off. I don't want to live in a world like that. I know you guys don't either. Let's just agree to get this done in the next 200 days. If we unite to do this, it is possible. And
now for a word from our sports desk.
This is a very exciting weekend for Mets fans. The 50-year curse has ended. Johan Santana liberated the franchise by throwing a no-hitter that was as inspirational as it was entertaining. It was a performance to marvel at, and perhaps as magical enough to jumpstart the new season for the Mets. With this win, they have 22 wins over teams with a record of 500. Knowing that the team never had thrown a no-hitter always was part of the Mets fans' DNA.
It was a strange distinction, somewhere between a nagging frustration and an odd badge of honor for fortitude. It wasn't nearly as wrenching as the Rangers fans' 54-year wait between Stanley Cups, but the amazing thing was that you didn't have to be around since 1962 to get the feel for what this meant. Everyone was involved, especially Santana, and he realized it instantly. He told his teammates, "We all made history." For Johan Santana's no-hitter, the Mets had never held any opponent hitless.
And a quick shout-out to all the Giants fans. In a nail-biting final game against the Patriots, the Giants came out victorious.
In other news, CEO Mark Zuckerberg personally sold 30.2 million shares of the Facebook company's IPO last week. They were each priced at $37.58. Facebook shares closed Tuesday at $31, down 18.4% from the IPO price. By Wednesday afternoon, they had recovered slightly, trading at about $32. The company and its investment bankers have been subject of investor anger over the losses associated with the hotly anticipated IPO. Zuckerberg's plan to sell 30.2 million shares had previously disclosed in the company's S-1 filing before the IPO, but overall these shares have not been doing well.
It's also a sad time for all the Whitney Houston fans. The sudden death of the 40-year-old singer on February 11, 2012 left many fans stunned and heartbroken. The mystery surrounding her death has still not been solved, although many feel that it was a drug overdose. Thanks for watching Channel 200.
Bye!